Moving on to the security feature within the Zoom visit, you'll click that. And within security, you'll be able to set up certain things for the visit. You'll be able to lock your meeting, enable the waiting room, allow participants to share screen, chat, rename themselves, unmute themselves, etc. You can also remove participants directly from this setting as well. We do recommend enabling the waiting room, particularly if patients are going to be inviting other guests, and maybe those guests will invite guests. It will allow some further security and protection for the visit. Moving on now to the participants section. You click on the participant section and you can see all of the individuals who are in the room. It also helps with some of your management of those individuals. You'll see the names on the upper right hand corner of yourself. You can rename yourself. You can also ask your patient if they're having trouble to unmute by clicking the ask to unmute. And there are some other options when you hit more. Here you'll see the option to chat to the patient. You can also stop their video, make them a host or a co-host. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that with patients, but you can do that with others in the room who might be participants as well in multi-provider video visits, rename the patient, or put in a waiting room, which we'll go over in a little bit. Now moving on to the chat box, you are able to chat with patients or other participants in the room by hitting chat. You'll see chat pull up as well as the list of participants. In the bottom side is where you can do the chat. You can send messages to everyone, to individuals privately, or when you're using the waiting room, you can also use the waiting room chat feature to talk to those who are out of the visit. One thing I'll note is that the chat feature should not be used to share any PHI, and it is not something that is stored or saved in the patient record at all. I'll also note that those who are in the chat room will have basically their chat will be wiped clean when they re-enter the room, so just making sure to note of that. The chat feature should really only be used for helping to direct and Wayfair and some basic troubleshooting, nothing related to the visit itself, if that can be helped. If you clip the little ellipses on the bottom of the chat right-hand side there, you will see some chat options that will be available for helping to manage the chat. You can decide who participants can chat with, if they can chat with no one, with only the host, or with everyone publicly, or if you want to allow them to have some everyone publicly and privately, if you want to involve them, allow them to have conversations with their family members on the side without your involvement. That will be available as well. Now to put a participant or participants into the waiting room, you go to their participant name and you can right click on them and find the put in waiting room button and navigate down towards that. When a patient is in a waiting room, they should be told that they're getting moved into the waiting room because there really is no announcement on their side about where they're going. They may think they got disconnected from the visit. So please make sure that people are communicating with the patient about what is happening or the participants about whether or not they're getting placed in the waiting room. When the patient is put in the waiting room, you can see who is in the waiting room and manage that list. You can message those in the waiting room as a group together, or you can pull patients back into the waiting room, into the visit as well. Waiting room might be really helpful for those of you with learners who need to have side conversations with the learners, but outside of the patient purview. You can put the patient into the waiting room during your side conversation and pull them back in to complete the visit. To invite someone back into the room, you just have to click on their name in the participant section and hit admit. One feature available with Zoom is a share screen option. This allows you to share particular programs or videos with the patient. So if you click share screen, you'll see that there are options both basic and advanced, and you can select what to share with the patient. Please do be careful about making sure that you're not inadvertently sharing patient PHI that's not related to the visit in question. But it is possible to share screen and share documents with the patient visually through the Zoom interface. Under the advanced features in screen share, you'll note that you can share a portion of your screen, which we might recommend when you are showing particular portions of the patient record. It will allow you to have a more tightly controlled view of what you're sharing to the patient using the portion of screen view. Here I've selected to share a portion of the screen, and you'll see at the top of the screen, when you go to the top of the screen, a new box will show up with different options for sharing screen and annotating the screen that you're sharing. When you're sharing a portion of the screen, the green box will point out what you are sharing to the patient. You can also pause the share if you need to move that box around, or stop the share as well. When you move the box around the screen, you'll see that it turns a different color. We do recommend pausing the screen share when you're fine moving it around, but otherwise you can see what it looks like when you are moving the screen around. The additional features available when you start sharing are the pause the screen share button, and also you can annotate the screen as well, kind of marking it up to draw attention to certain things, which we'll go over shortly. But if you go to the More section, you'll see that there's ability to disable participants' annotation, show names of others who are annotating as well. So there's some other options to play with if you are doing screen share for some of your clinical practices. You can also annotate the box or what you're choosing to share with the patient. You'll see there's some markup options available here. You can also undo those markups, highlight certain things only, and if appropriate, you could save those to your drive, but we recommend not saving anything that has PHI in it, which would likely be most of the things that you would be using in your video visits. So likely will not have any use for that save button within annotation. And now I'll just kind of show you some of the annotations available. You can draw. You can also create text and share that with the patient to draw attention to certain things. And users who might be using this often will probably get the hang of this and what they want to call out to the patient and what different annotation features they would like to use. But there are several options available to help make your screen sharing with patients relatively smooth. And now, before we go into the multi-provider video visit look, I will show you what it's like to end a meeting. You'll have two options when you hit end the meeting. You'll have end meeting for all or leave the meeting. If there's somebody still in the room and you hit leave meeting, you'll have to assign a new host. If it's another provider in the room or an MA or someone internal, you can assign that person to be a host if needed. But if it's a patient, we do recommend putting all the patients into a waiting room, which will allow you to leave the visit without ending the visit. So those are the kind of ways to go out of the visit. Basically, if you are able to leave the meeting, you can come back in, but obviously if you end the meeting for all, that really closes the visit encounter. So just as if it were a VidYO visit, it's similar in that if you leave the visit, you come back in the same way you first initially came into the visit. So that would mean that you would hit the leave meeting button once your patient has been put into the waiting room. And when you come back in, you can either go to the rooming tab and hit connect, and that will launch Zoom directly from the encounter. Also, we'll show you if there's others in the room, if others have joined that visit for like a multi-provider video visit. The other way to enter the visit is to, again, go to your schedule view and hit that green camera button, and that will relaunch Zoom. When you come back into the room, the visit will alert you that the patient is still waiting in the waiting room and that you will need to admit them to finish off the visit. When you are ready to end the visit for good, you do hit end meeting for all, and you can go into your next encounter. It will show checked out. I will note that this checked out setting will show even if the patient's still in the room, so just pay attention to the green camera button. If the patient is still waiting in the room for you, you'll be able to tell that the patient is still there if you do leave the meeting and then come back in. To invite others to a video visit, you can go to the participant section and you'll see the invite tab on the bottom left-hand side of that participant tab, and you'll hit that. And on the laptop or desktop, it will give you the options to copy link or to send something from an email. On a iOS device or Android, you can send a text as well, but just noting it will send a personal text number, so you want to keep that internal. If you're sending an email, it will send to this link, and you can send that out to patients or to other providers or anyone you need to have join the visit. For internal Michigan Medicine folks, if you're using Skype for Business, you can also use that to connect them to the visit type. So you would hit the invite and copy the invite link or copy the invitation. And then you could just open Skype and send that to your colleague by hitting paste, and they'll have the link to be able to jump into the video visit to join. When others join the call, you'll see them come up in the grid form. If you have the grid form, you can also pick speaker view. You'll see in the upper right-hand section, you can pick the view that's more appropriate for your call. And you'll be able to see everyone in the video visit, and you can mute individuals or let everyone talk freely, and give you some options available as far as being able to communicate with those folks as well as being able to chat. So everyone has the same features as you would for the single video visit interface. On the chat option, you'll see you could talk to just the patient or to the different individuals who've come in privately or to the group as a whole. Do you want to call out that it's helpful with the multi-provider interface to be able to right-click on the camera of the image of the individuals, and you can see that there are different options for those individuals. Of particular importance is pin video or spotlight video, which would allow you to basically make the one video a primary video for yourself or for others. Here I've removed 2 of the participants and put them into the waiting room. And you'll see that I'm able to go to the participant tab and click on message to message those in the waiting room, admit individually or admit all, to have everyone come back into the visit space. For multi-provider workflows or workflows where you might have to leave but leave another colleague into the room, you do have the ability to make someone a co-host. If you need to temporarily leave the visit, but you don't want to put people into the waiting room, that's another option you'll have with the multi-provider video visit. You do get a confirmation before you go ahead and make somebody that co-host and let them have the abilities similar to you as hosting the visit. Also helpful if you are using multiple colleagues in one video visit, you'll want to make sure with share screen that if you want your colleagues to be able to share their screens as well, that you go to the share screen settings and either allow multiple participants to share simultaneously or just making sure basically that all participants can share and giving everyone that ability if that is needed for your workflow. And just like leaving a single participant video visit, if you are going to leave the visit, you do need to assign a new host to take over, or you need to put everyone into the waiting room before you can leave the visit. And then if you are going to want to come back. If you want to end the visit for all, you hit end and leave meeting for all. Once you leave Zoom, you can